the first light of dawn touched the crumbling towers of a forgotten city. Moss and vines clung to every stone, rivers meandered through streets long abandoned, and silence hung thick in the air. Amidst the ruins, Cale stirred. His memories of this world were fragmented, like shards of broken glass. Every step echoed on the cobblestones, where shadows of a past civilization whispered secrets. The city was silent, yet alive, watching, waiting, as if it knew he had returned. As Cale moved cautiously, he noticed faint glowing symbols etched into the stones of the ruins. Birds with bioluminescent feathers darted through broken windows. Vines shifted subtly, almost as if alive, responding to his presence. The wind carried whispers, fragments of voices, of laughter, of lives long gone. He realized that this world was not empty. It had preserved echoes of its past, waiting for someone to listen. From the shadows emerged Liara, the last priestess of this forgotten world. Her robes shimmered with emerald and gold, and her eyes glowed faintly with knowledge lost to time. Without words, she guided Cale to a hidden temple. Here, she revealed that the world had been abandoned not by accident, but by the consequences of greed, hubris, and forces beyond understanding. Knowledge of the past was the key to survival, and Cale's journey had only begun. Beneath the temple lay a subterranean library, untouched by time. Shelves overflowed with scrolls, manuscripts, and glowing crystals. Shafts of sunlight pierced cracks in the ceiling, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Each artifact contained fragments of the lost civilization, maps, inventions, histories, and mystical writings. Cale realized that understanding the past was as important as surviving the present. While Cale studied the manuscripts, shadows stirred in the corners. Twisted creatures, shaped by nature's reclamation, prowled the library. Liara traced protective runes in the air, their glow forming a barrier against the advancing darkness. Cale understood that knowledge alone would not keep him safe. Courage, strategy, and quick thinking were equally vital. The library had become a battlefield, and survival a test of skill and wit. After the threat passed, Cale and Liara rested among the glowing scrolls. She taught him to read mystical symbols, interpret signs of the environment, and recognize hidden dangers. A bond of trust and mentorship formed between them. The ruins were no longer just reminders of a forgotten past. They were living guides, mapping trials, secrets, and paths toward understanding. With lessons learned, they emerged from the temple. Beyond lay forests, rivers, mountains, lands reclaimed by nature. Ruins were scattered everywhere, sometimes hiding dangers, sometimes treasures. Each step into the unknown was a step into the forgotten world itself, a world of adventure, mystery, and discovery. Cale felt both fear and excitement. The path ahead promised challenges unlike anything he had imagined. Cale and Liara stepped into the dense forests that had swallowed entire villages and roads. Giant roots twisted like serpents along the ground, and mist hung thick between the towering trees. Strange birds with glowing feathers sang melodies that felt almost alive. Every step was a careful negotiation with the forest, which seemed to watch them, testing their resolve. Here, nature had reclaimed dominion over a world humans once ruled. After hours of navigating the forest, they reached the Crystal Canyon. Jagged cliffs of sparkling minerals rose on either side, reflecting light in every color. Rivers of glowing water cut through the canyon floor. Strange, whispering winds carried echoes of the past. Cale marveled at the beauty, but Liara warned that the canyon was treacherous, filled with hidden traps and creatures evolved to survive in these strange conditions. Beyond the canyon, ruins of ancient temples emerged from the forest floor. Vines draped over tall columns, and murals depicted stories of forgotten rulers and mystical ceremonies. Inside, traps still awaited the unwary, and Cale and Liara had to tread carefully. Each temple held fragments of knowledge, artifacts, or mystical runes that would guide them further. They realized that every discovery brought them closer to the ultimate secret of this lost civilization. A hidden village emerged, overrun by nature. Houses were broken and half buried in roots. Shadows flickered through the ruins, hinting at lurking dangers. Suddenly, mutated wildlife, creatures formed from a blend of humans and animals, emerged. Cale and Liara defended themselves using runes and quick thinking. It was their first true test outside the temple, and they realized the world's dangers were as potent as its mysteries. After surviving the trial, Cale and Liara rested beside a glowing river. The beauty of the world, despite its dangers, was mesmerizing. Liara shared stories of the civilization's glory and fall. Kale learned to read signs in the environment, to anticipate traps, and to respect the land. Their bond deepened, forged through trust, survival, and shared curiosity. Each lesson brought them closer to the forgotten horizon. They came to a chasm spanned by a shattered stone bridge. The wind howled through the canyon below, and every step threatened to send loose stones crashing. As Kale carefully crossed, Liara warned him of shadows lurking in the mist, creatures that thrived in high places. It was a test of balance, courage, and trust. Together, they reached the other side, each step strengthening their resolve for the trials ahead. At nightfall, they discovered a cave glowing with bioluminescent crystals. Water dripped from stalactites, reflecting a magical light. Strange creatures moved silently through the glow, but none attacked. Kale and Liara explored carefully, uncovering ancient inscriptions and carvings detailing rituals of the lost civilization. Every step felt like walking through history itself, connecting them with the souls of a forgotten world. With the caves behind them, Kale and Liara looked out over a vast valley, dotted with ruins, forests, and rivers. The path forward promised both wonders and dangers. They had survived their first major trials, learned the secrets of the land, and grown stronger together. Ahead lay even greater mysteries, betrayals, and discoveries. The journey through the lost lands had only begun, and the forgotten horizon awaited. Dark clouds rolled over the horizon. Lightning flashed across the forgotten valley as Kale and Liara continued their journey. The air felt heavy, almost warning them of what lay ahead. In the distance, they saw torchlights, human movement. For the first time, Kale wasn't alone in this world, but Liara's expression hardened. "Not all survivors can be trusted," she whispered. The camp was built inside the wreckage of an old fortress. Fires crackled as survivors stared at Kale and Liara, half curious, half hostile. Their leader, a man named Derek, welcomed them with a forced smile. His eyes, however, told another story. "You seek knowledge," he said. "We seek power. Perhaps we can help each other." Kale hesitated, but Liara nodded slightly. For now, alliance was survival. Within Derek's tent lay a map carved on stone. It depicted regions unknown, mountains floating above clouds, temples buried beneath oceans, and a massive spire called the Eye of Eternity. "It said that whoever reaches the Eye will control the world reborn," Derek said, his voice trembling with greed. Liara frowned. "That's not control, that's corruption." Kale studied the markings and realized the truth. This was the path to the world's origin, and possibly its doom. Night fell. The survivors pretended to rest, but Kale felt eyes on him. In the darkness, Derek's men whispered plans. They intended to steal the artifact Liara carried, the heart of the horizon, a crystal pulsing with ancient energy. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Fires flared, steel clashed. Kale fought desperately beside Liara, but she was struck down, the crystal ripped from her hands. "Run," she shouted. "Don't let them reach the Eye." Kale fled into the storm, guilt tearing through him as the camp burned behind. Kale ran through the wastelands, chased by Derek's men. Lightning illuminated the shattered remains of machines and towers from an older age. The world seemed alive, angry at those who disturbed its sleep. He hid beneath fallen bridges, leapt over ruins, and finally dove into a river glowing faintly blue. The current carried him far from his pursuers, toward an unknown destiny. As Kale was swept downstream, visions filled his mind. He saw ancient cities rising and falling, people worshipping a shining spire, and the world collapsing under its own arrogance. A voice echoed through the water, Liara's voice. "The horizon remembers. Follow the light." Kale gasped and surfaced, finding himself in a glowing lagoon surrounded by ruins. The storm had passed, but inside him, a new one had begun. Kale emerged from the lagoon and looked toward the horizon. In the distance, a tower pierced the sky, the Eye of Eternity. He clenched his fists, determination burning in his eyes. "If Liara fell for the world's truth, I'll rise to finish it." The journey was no longer about survival. It was about redemption and stopping those who sought to repeat humanity's greatest mistake. Kale walked through the glowing valley, where the ground hummed softly beneath his feet. The wind carried whispers, voices of those who once lived before the fall. He saw broken statues, half buried in light, names carved in languages he didn't understand. Each step felt like walking through time itself. And then he heard her voice again. Kale, you were never meant to find the eye. You were meant to remember. At last, Kale reached it, the eye of eternity. A colossal tower that seemed to touch the stars, its surface made of crystal and metal older than the world itself. Lightning crackled around it, as if the heavens guarded its secret. Derek and his men were already there. The heart of the horizon glowed in Derek's hand, unstable and pulsing. "This is the end of all weakness," Derek shouted. "The world will obey me." Kale stepped forward. "You're repeating the same sin that destroyed everything," he yelled. Derek sneered. "Sin built this world." The heart erupted. Blinding light swallowed everything. Visions filled Kale's mind. The ancient world creating the eye to control reality and destroying itself when power outgrew wisdom. "The eye doesn't grant control," Liara's voice echoed. "It shows truth." Through the light, Kale saw her, Liara's spirit radiant and calm. She reached out, placing her hand over his heart. "You remembered," she whispered. "That was the test." The light began to fade, washing away Derek and his greed. The tower stopped shaking. In silence, Kale fell to his knees, the world reborn in golden dawn. When Kale opened his eyes, the land was silent. The storms were gone, the ruins alive with light. He stood at the edge of the horizon, where sky and sea met in harmony. The eye had vanished, leaving behind only one truth: that the world doesn't need power to survive. It needs memory. Kale walked into the sunrise, carrying Liara's pendant. The forgotten horizon, remembered once more.